know when to start.
Hello everyone, we are starting the webinar now.
Okay, so should I start, Advait?
Yes, we can start. I will just introduce you. Just a minute. Hello everyone, welcome to TiE Pune Entrepreneurship Forum webinar. We have guest Mr. Advait Kurlekar sir, and we are talking about the role of the mentor in entrepreneurship journey of the startup. I would like to just give a short brief about TiE Pinnacle. TiE Pinnacle is an incubation center supported by 4 different government ministries, and we are currently around incubated around 60 startups till now. And our journey is towards the supporting the startup and incubating, as well as we have the official co-working space and the manufacturing space at Bhosri, Pune. So we are started a webinar series from this month, and this is the third webinar series. We are with the Mr. Advait Kurlekar sir, who is the CEO of just
Yeah, I can introduce myself, not an issue.
Yeah. So I would like to just give over to you, sir. We'll just start this webinar. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Uday, and thanks everyone for taking your Monday morning time out for this session. My name is Advait Kurlekar. I'm the CEO of Upohan Management Consultants. I run a boutique management consulting company based in Pune. We work with clients on strategy, HR, and processes. But more importantly, my other time job is I'm a TiE Pune charter member, and today sometime I will also give some information of what is TiE Pune, and what kind of activities that we do vis-a-vis entrepreneurship. I've been a mentor for startups for the last now 10-12 years. I don't know how many startups I'm been involved in the last dozen or so years. For TiE Pune, for other incubators like how I had a mentee with AIC Pinnacle as well, with IIT Bombay, ECEL, IIT Bombay, eYantra, IIT Bombay, Desai School of Entrepreneurship, Sign IIT, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is, while I have, as you can see, some kind of PowerPoint to talk about role of a mentor, but before we start, as if this were a physical session, I would like to understand from you. If you have any specific questions, I would take the questions upfront rather than in between or later, and I'll try and answer those questions, through the next 50-55 minutes or so. So as long as you can sort of unmute yourself and ask me a question, I'll jot them down. I don't have a whiteboard here, and I'll try and see if we can answer these questions. So before I start, any questions in terms of whatever your expectations, any questions upfront for this session? Anyone?
Good morning, sir. This is Gayatri Matkar here. One of the questions that I have is that how to identify, is there a pool of mentors available to a mid-sized or a small-sized company like ours? And then B is to, should we have one or multiple, and how do we identify whether he's the one who will guide us in the vision and mission that we have laid down for ourselves?
Yeah, okay. Great question, Gayatri. I'll come back to you. Let me first take the questions and then I'll answer them one by one. Anyone else? No? Okay.
Maybe I have a question here. This is Dhanesh.
Dhanesh, yeah, tell me.
Yeah. So the question is, Should the mentor be from the same business stream that you are in, or we should try and look for mentors that have varied experience other than what you're doing?
Yeah, excellent question again, Ganesh. I
Yeah,
also say it's a very common question that one hears. Yeah, somebody else was asking a question.
Yes, sir, we have some questions which we got in registration form. Just I will take one by one. Yeah. One of them is how to find the technical mentors who can help with technical suggestions to the startups.
Okay.
The second is how do you identify a mentor? Where do you go looking for him? Like how to find out a mentor? And the third question is like, how do you know if the mentor I have chosen is the right one?
Okay.
Yeah. The fourth question is last. How to get the right mentor and how to work out timing and commercial with them.
Okay.
So these 4 questions we received in the form. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we have a bunch of questions now. I will, try and identify, answer these as we go, but maybe I'll answer some of this upfront. So a couple of people have said that how to identify a mentor. Now, I believe all of you, one way or the other, are associated with an incubator like AIC Pinnacle. And when you say incubator, normally incubators do have a set of empaneled, if I can use the word, empaneled mentors. So to that extent, as long as you are part of an incubator, the searching of a mentor job becomes not yours, but your incubators, and it becomes slightly easy in that. Whether you should have one mentor or two mentor, that was the second part of Gayatri's question as well. Going back to my own experience in TiE, we've been running a mentoring program called Nurture for the last 10 years, and I'll talk about it later in the session today. And consciously from day one, which was from 2012, we have chosen to have two mentors for every mentee company that we select for our program. The reason for two mentors is that as a mentor, and I myself have been a mentor, like I said, my daytime job is something else, and my other time job or voluntary work is what I do for TiE. And therefore, there will be situations where I get sucked up in my own business. I have to travel for a long time. I have some contingencies in my own business or in my personal life. We've all gone through COVID last 2 years, so would have gone through those kind of situations, unfortunately. And therefore, if there was only one mentor and I'm out of action for something, for personal or professional reasons, mentoring should not get affected. And that's the reason why we've always chosen to have two mentors from our side. Interesting question which Dinesh asked is that should it be from the same domain kind of thing? Again, very fantastic question, a very popular question. And again, in TiE Pune, we've deliberated this over several times and several years. And rightly or wrongly, and since we are doing it, I have to say rightly, we've again consciously chosen not to have a mentor from the same domain. And the reason that we give is that sometimes, and this has become from experience, that then there is a mentor bias in terms of what kind of advice, what kind of questions the mentor is asking the mentee if the mentor, she or he comes from the same industry. And in an environment like AIC Pinnacle, where you have a host of other mentors available at, if I can use the word, at your disposal, or I can definitely say in TiE, where we have about 80 mentors in our system. If I'm mentoring a company and I absolutely, I have little idea in terms of their domain, then there is always help available for a specific question related to the domain that I will rope in one of my colleague mentors from TiE or outside and get that problem solved or get that question solved or get that clarification taken care of by my mentee. That is that sort of answers Danish's question. Whether it is a technical mentor or an industry mentor or any other mentor, how to find the right mentor is a question that came up from your forms today. I think I have answered that question, because if you're part of an incubator, finding a mentor becomes that much easier because the incubator would have a panel of resources available to them. How do you know what is the right kind of mentor? I think over a period of time, if you see that the journey that you are taking is moving in the right direction, the journey that you're taking is as per your plan or as per the agreed plan between you and your mentor. And more importantly, if you look at yourself, say, after a couple of mentor-mentee sessions, that you are far more better off than what you were before you started the mentoring process, that should give you the idea that, yeah, you have chosen the right mentor. If you see that there is not much value add coming, not much effort being put in, not much inputs that are coming, not the kind of right questions that the mentor is asking, if that is happening over a period of time, then you may want to sort of come to a conclusion that perhaps the mentor is not the chosen mentor, or the given mentor perhaps is not the right choice. Sometimes it does happen. In my experience with TiE also, sometimes it happens, and we've taken corrective action there. The last question was in terms of the timing and commercials. I think we leave so for example, in TiE, we expect that the mentor-mentee meeting happens twice a month for an hour at least, 2 hours a month. And we leave that to the mutual convenience between the mentor and the mentee companies. TiE office does not get involved that, you have to meet Friday evening 5:30 or whatever, something like that. You leave it to the mutual convenience. Mentees also might have some agenda. Mentors, of course, have their own agenda, and we leave it to them. As far as commercials is concerned, I don't know. I can't really answer that question because as far as you are being part of an incubator, like an EIC Pinnacle, correct me if I'm wrong, Uday, but I don't think the mentee is supposed to pay the mentor commercials.
At incubation center, they don't have to pay. Yeah, right.
Absolutely. And same thing is TiE. We are an NGO, so all the mentoring, the work that we do for through TiE is absolutely free for all our mentees. The only thing we expect them to be is TiE members, which is an annual membership. If you're not a TiE member, obviously this process is not valid. That sort of answers perhaps all the questions that we have. Does it answer the question, Gayatri, Dinesh, and all the other people who have asked it through their forms?
Absolutely, sir. This is good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
I think
so. Yeah, tell me.
No, I was just saying there are a few other questions, but I think once you go through the presentation, maybe we can.
No, I'll be more than happy to. I mean, I don't have a fixed agenda. I mean, I do have slides, but I'd be more keen to answer direct questions rather than having an agenda saying that I have these 20 slides which I want to take you through.
Right. So one of the things that came to my mind is that, if it's commendable, like people like you who are, giving your time to mentor, but isn't there some, stake or some kind of expectation that is involved to make sure that you take, a startup from point A to point B? How does that work? I mean,
yeah. So, the early part of your mentor-mentee relationship, two things need to get sorted out upfront. Easier thing which people often think is that, identification of point B, like you said, Gayatri, that let's say 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, 4 weeks down the line, what will be the time frame? Where do you want yourself to be? And it need not only be in terms of revenue or whatever. It depends on where you are today. And that comes to the more important point. In not just from a mentor-mentee relationship, but from any founder's perspective, is to have a very, very, very honest, I would say, reality check in terms of where we are today. Point B has no relevance till you have a absolutely honest reality check in terms of where you are today.
Right.
And sometimes that becomes difficult because as founders, we tend to have, again, I'm sorry, I'm making a blanket statement here, but we tend to have a slightly bloated view in terms of who we are, what we have done, how great is our idea, so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah? And therefore, I'm using the word the honest, truthful, and reality check in terms of where we are today.
Right.
Because, I always give this example that if I want to go to a terrace restaurant in a building, that's my point B as a very simple tactical example. I need to be very clear that have I parked my car in B2, B1, am I outside the lobby on the ground floor, or already on the 4th floor, or in a 6-story building. Because my path to A to B becomes clear once we have clarity on B, and more importantly, we have clarity on point A.
Correct. Understood.
Yeah, so
Understood.
that sort of hopefully answers your question.
That absolutely it does. But I have another, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I've been, we've been having this debate amongst co-founders here, that we need to have a board because it's just really the co-founders running the company so far. Because as you said, we have this floated idea of ourselves, and we see we feel we can do it all, because we're all
Yeah,
technical guys and we know what we're doing and so on and so forth. So now
yeah.
I think is a time where we are looking at having some board in place. Now, what I have this confusion in my mind as to if we have a mentor, is it really required to have a board, and how do we bifurcate their roles and responsibilities, and what is the differentiation really?
So again, a great question, Gayatri. Let me give you a actual conversation I had with one of my mentee companies, and he asked me the same question: that do I need a
Mhm.
board? And when we talk of board, there are two kinds of boards.
Right,
One is a board of directors.
right.
So if you have a private limited company or a LLP or LLC, whatever it's called, then you potentially can have a board of directors.
Right.
Alternatively, you can have just a board of advisors.
Okay.
Yeah, and typically if you have a very healthy, good relationship with your mentor, then he or she can be part of your board of advisors. Definitely, there
Okay.
are other challenges of becoming a board of director because in today's times with the new ROC, etc., the Companies Act, there are a lot of fiduciary responsibilities as independent directors. So sometimes people are not so sure that they want to immediately join as board of directors, but happy to join as board of advisors. That is one.
Hmm.
Secondly, you need to be very clear whether it's a board of director or board of advisors that what is that advice from an external senior person, which 1, 2, 3 areas of domain where you think you need reasonably regular advice from senior people in the industry. So let me take an example of this conversation that I had. So one of the dominant areas of business that this company was operating was taking contracts from government entities. And therefore, it might have made sense for them to have somebody on their board who can sort of, have connections with government entities, and just his or her presence might open doors for them. Now, you also have to be very clear in terms of what are your expectations. Please don't expect your board members to be salespeople for you. Because
I
sometimes,
see.
unfortunately, sometimes that is an expectation that if I have you on board, then you'll get me business. No, that is not the role of a board of director or board of advisor kind of person. But he or she can advise you in terms of how to start business in an area that you are not so sure.
Hmm.
There are, if the kind of transactions that you're doing, etc., are complex and are on a thin line or a gray area as far as some taxation is concerned, some legality is concerned, then there are startups and there are companies who have people who have come from that in erstwhile income tax or service tax or GST kind of thing, or somebody who's from the legal background, so that you have advice on hand for anything, because if you're entering maybe too many legal contracts with with your partners or with your customers, and therefore you need some legal mind on your board.
Mhm.
So again, that does not mean you will never hire a legal advisor, because again, you're not making the board member work operation. So
Right, right.
depending on, so for example, this guy said that I want a young board, which is a noble thought, but young also means that young on experience. So I told him that first you decide what is the domain, or what are the different diversity of domains that you want on your board, and what is the role that you are looking for from these kind of people. And I want in the same thing, that they are not going to be operationally involved, they are not going to help you get sales and close deals.
Right.
Yeah, and as a startup, it is going to be very difficult for you to get marquee kind of influencers or marquee kind of people on your board, because unless you have some contacts or some kind of extended friends and family kind of plan, like I always say that somebody knows somebody, and that person knows you, and therefore he or she is ready to be your advisor or a board member. So that has to be very clear in terms of your mind.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I have a question here. This is Danish.
Yes,
Just a
Ganesh.
follow-up question on the last one. How do we get somebody formally on a board of directors, not a board of directors, but board of advisors onto a company?
Yeah. So, like I said, first is you need to sort of, in a way, headhunt that person. You need to identify that this is the area of domain that I want, and this is the kind of person I want.
Right.
Yeah. And you need to be very clear in terms of if that person agrees to join your board of advisors or whatever, what is the role that you are expecting?
Right.
And then the third thing, obviously, is to see if you know somebody who knows somebody, or you know that person directly, or if there's a second level or third level kind of contact, and try and approach that person. And like I said, as long as it is board of advisors, the possibility that people will say yes, even if they don't know you, is far higher than if you are offering them a board of director kind of thing, because of the fiduciary responsibilities as independent directors. These people like me have to have when we are sitting on boards.
Sorry, but then technically, do we have to do some paperwork for that?
Yes, I mean, see, it's a board of advisors, which you can offer them a kind of thing. I mean, you have to appoint them formally. If you have a letterhead or a mail or whatever. See, board of advisors is much more
Just sorry to
informal
interrupt,
kind
sir.
of.
Hello.
Yeah.
Your voice is just doubling, like just echoing. Just.
Oh, is it? Is it better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. So, see, board of advisors is a much more informal kind of role, and therefore it can be just be an email, or if you have a letter, you can print a letter and kind of give it. And then normally there'll be, in some cases, depending on where you are on your maturity, there might be some expectation in terms of, some kind of commercials there, as long as the person is on your advisory. Sometimes happens, it may or may not happen. There may be an expectation, may not be an expectation, may not be able to afford. In any way, it is not any relevance to the market value of the person you are having on your board, but it is just a token of appreciation kind of thing.
Understood. But no company board resolution and all may not be required.
No, because no. This is again, this is not. I'm strictly talking of board of advisors, not board of directors.
Got it. Thank you.
Board of directors means that your company secretary will get into action. Okay, any more questions, or should I quickly take you through some of the slides I want to share? Shall we?
Yeah, I think we can go ahead with the slide.
Okay.
Sorry.
Finally, okay. So when we're talking of mentoring, back to mentoring rather than board kind of thing. Yeah, just on a lighter note. Yeah, I'm sure many of you are following Dilbert or active fans of Dilbert. You can see my screen, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But again, we are talking of, we talked of board of directors and board of advisors. So, mentoring in a corporate environment, that's, sometimes me as a consultant get involved, versus me as a voluntary mentor for startups is very, very different, because the environment is different. The specific context is different. There is a specific kind of expectation when, for example, I get appointed as a mentor or a coach in corporates, versus when I play a role as a mentor for startups. Both in corporate environment, definitely it is much more structured. There is, in both cases, there are some similarities in terms of, like Gayatri mentioned earlier, in terms of point A and point B. Mentoring in a corporate environment is more of a coaching, less of a mentoring. In a startup, it is actually mentoring. It can be structured like we have through your incubator here, EIC Pinnacle, or like I mentioned, weekly in terms of time. But in many cases, it can just be random and what I call unstructured. Sorry. And it is, like I said, corporate is much more structured. It is driven with a specific purpose. It is driven by the company. And typically it is for mid or junior level kind of people. Sometimes the board appoints you to be a mentor or a coach to CXOs. And sometimes it is also part of what is called their career plan. Here, obviously, it is mentoring for startups is typically only for the founders, or I can say the co-founders if there are more than one founders. It makes sense to have all the founders get coached. And whenever we have more than one founder, the coaching, mentoring is always done together. It is never done, with one founder at a time kind of thing, because we don't want any kind of disparity and kind of issues later. So depending again in terms of the maturity of the startup, we as mentors play different hats depending on where you are. One is sometimes at a very basic level, you need to get things right, management systems, processes, policies kind of right. So in a mentoring process, there are a lot of activities, there are a lot of exercises that we want our mentee companies to go through. In a way, it is going back to our TiE program. It is, we call it a mini MBA in entrepreneurship, because there are a lot of lectures, there are a lot of workshops, there are boot camps, and there are a lot of exercises on them to do. And that is what I call being a process leader. Across the board, yes, you offer your so-called pool of wisdom, your experience, your expertise, been there, done that, seen that, failed at many things, and therefore I'm slightly more wiser kind of thing, which a mentor typically offers to his or mentee companies. The advisor part is very, very important. But what I have marked in blue is the trust and honest part is very, very critical. Trust forms over a period of time or between a mentor-mentee relationship. But what is more important is being honest. And even in our internal discussions, when we have our mentor meetings, we say that, look, we are not here to play any popularity game. So if there's something that you are not liking with any of your founders or any kind of things that are being discussed, be honest, be truthful, because that's what our role is as an advisor, to help our mentees and startups and founders sort of get back into the right kind of direction. And as the company grows, like we were just discussing, you can be a board member or a strategic advisor. Board member being a board of director member, strategic advisor would mean in terms of the board of advisors without being on the board of directors kind of thing. That strategic advice can be in the area of strategy, can be in the area of HR, that can be in the area of legal, can be in the area of taxation, that can be in terms of your domain, depends on your own kind of need. So essentially, like I said, generally what we prefer is a much more structured program to start with in the initial stages when we are still at perhaps idea validation stage, etc., etc. Some of the mentoring would be a little bit unstructured, but as you move forward, it better be a structured kind of program with some agenda, with some outputs, with some deliverables on both sides. So this is just to sort of, like I said, summarize what I was saying on the last slide. Depending on where you are, the conceptual stage, launch stage, initial stage, growth stage, later stage, the role of a mentor. Again, these are not distinct. You can see there are overlaps on that. But if you're already reasonably revenue earning kind of thing, unlikely you will need the process leader role of a mentor, where you need to things need to set up processes, set up business models, set up policies kind of thing. You must have, the assumption is that you would have gone through that process some time back. And therefore the role of a mentor then becomes more of an advisor, partner, rather than a process leader or offering his expertise. So it's essentially a very, very, what should I say, a symbiotic role between a mentor and mentee. I will come back to role of a mentor and a scope of a mentor separately a little later, very quickly, but it has to go hand in hand. And that's where the trust part that I mentioned earlier needs to get built very soon. It will not happen in the first meeting, it will happen, but it should happen in the first few meetings, definitely. If there is no trust between a mentee and a mentor and a mentor and mentee, then this relationship is not going anywhere. That is very, very clear. And therefore, it takes time. It takes time, which means there has to be a commitment to each other, commitment to the same cause, common cause, commitment of time. Many times we say that, like I said, we are expecting mentor-mentee meetings to happen twice a month. Yeah, occasionally some meetings might get rescheduled. As long as they are rescheduled, it's fine. They can't get cancelled. Develop trust, which we talked about. Plan goals, what Gayatri was mentioning about plan A to point A to point B. That has to be very happening upfront. Very clear in terms of the roles and responsibilities. Like I said, your mentor, same holds true when I was talking about the board member or the advisor. Your mentor is not here to sell things for you. The mentor is not here to kind of get into operational responsibilities for you, and therefore you need to be very clear what are your roles and responsibilities, kind of thing. So that is kind of thing. And because there is, we are committing time with each other, we are developing a trust with each other, we are identifying where we are and where we want to be. At the end of the day, that symbiotic relationship means that there is a collaborative effort towards a common cause of moving from point to point. And as they say, mentoring cannot be thrust on you. Yeah, you need to ask for it. You need to clearly see a need for it. You may in a incubator kind of thing, you may not have a choice whom you get as a mentor. That normally happens. In TiE, for example, that happens. We generally avoid people who say that I want this mentor. If you want that mentor, you go ahead and contact that person and get that person as a mentor. If you're part of a structured program, the program management office will decide. But the fact remains that you need to be very clear that you want go through this mentoring process, and it's not thrust upon you. You have to, as mentors, we have to sort of use our power of influence, use our experience, kind of thing. I'm just showing you some cartoons just to sort of make my point clear here in terms of what needs to be done. It has to have that, tangible value. Somebody asked me that question, I think Dinesh, that how do I know, or no, not Dinesh, somebody was in the form, but how do I know it's a right mentor? That if there is no added value from your mentor, it's just transactional, and you're just tick marking on both sides, you as a founder or the mentor as a mentor, just saying that, yeah, fine, we are supposed to meet twice a month. Yeah, we've done that. But there is no tangible value that you as a founder are getting from your mentor. Then there is a challenge there, like I mentioned earlier. And yes, again, I'm warning that this is extending a helping hand. Does not necessarily mean selling for you, selling on your behalf, being your brand ambassador, being an influencer, or getting into rolling up my sleeves and getting into an operational role. That is not an expectation, but on a routine basis. But yes, we know as mentors, we sometimes need to sort of roll up our sleeves and be ask the right kind of questions, which might be at a otherwise operation. And of course, we need to know when to sort of step back as well, not push our own agenda. That's where the earlier question in terms of whether the mentor should be from the same domain comes in. Time and again, we've seen that sometimes the step becomes very difficult if I'm already involved too much into the same domain. There also can be a challenge sometimes that there could be a clash of interest or vested interest kind of thing. That if I'm from the same domain, my mentee company is also in the same domain, then there might be some clash of interest, and that's why we try and avoid that as well. And yes, while every mentee meeting that I've had, I have to admit that it has always been a learning experience for me as well. I always keep my fingers crossed and hope that my mentees are also learning. But for me, for sure, it is always a learning experience. There's so much to learn from every transaction, from every interaction with the mentee companies, and especially when you have a diverse set of mentee companies, that definitely adds value. Again, going back to that point that if the mentor is from the domain expertise, same domain, sometimes it happens that I don't want my mentee companies to be like me. then because then if it's like me, then I must have made so many mistakes in my life, and then I'll end up advising you on the same mistakes. So it is not mirroring what kind of thing, but advising and giving the right kind of advice, putting all the expertise and experience that you have. Like I said, been there, done that, which means also, mentoring is always looked upon as, I will tell you what to do. Very often, mentors also need to tell their mentees what not to do. And that comes from experience, that comes from advice. This is a very important thing, and sometimes we face this tricky situation that, like Uday also corroborated my statement earlier, that as long as you're part of an incubator, the mentoring offered to you is absolutely free. And if, unfortunately, there are times when mentee companies founders don't see the value of this free advice that they get, and most of the mentors, are successful entrepreneurs by themselves. They're very busy people. They have 20 other things or 20,000 other things to do. Yet, in their own violation, they have agreed to be better through a incubator or individually, and have agreed to give you their free time. And therefore, you can't be in that situation where there is something being discussed, something that has been asked from you, and you don't do that kind of thing. You don't follow that advice, especially when it comes to analyzing things in the initial part of relationship, in the process owner part of relationship. That doesn't happen. That doesn't go well from a mentor-mentee relationship. Yes, as mentors, we also have to believe that there will be situations where we have to be truthful, like I mentioned, not only truthful in terms of giving honest feedback, but being truthful to ourselves also, and raise our hands and say that, yeah, I don't know. But that's where being part of an incubator, that's where being part of a larger cohort of mentors helps. Because if I don't know, at least I know whom to ask in my fellow mentors or fellow TiE members or fellow AIC incubators kind of thing. So that becomes a kind of thing. And that's where the domain expertise is not necessarily always required. Yeah. And, when we are talking about structured program means there is, it is not random, it is not one-off. There is a structure to that program. You are supposed to, like I said, identify not just point A to point B, but also some thought process and how you want to reach and what are the internal milestones from point A to point B. And therefore, you have to look at mentoring much more as a, what should I say, a journey rather than just reaching some kind of destination. Yes, the whole objective is to help you reach that destination, but the journey is as important as that destination. So, I mean, this is quite common in a mentoring kind of discussion in terms of 6 C's, 3 C's, 8 C's, whatever, etc. But I think generally we've talked about it. Connection is important. The frequency in terms of the communication, the open, honest communication is important. You have to look at it as a collaborative effort, both from a mentor side as well as mentee side. You have to sort of network through the mentors as well as through your internal kind of thing to identify. A lot of questions were there in terms of how to identify mentors. You need to cultivate that relationship, and again, the commitment part of it, which means if there's something that needs to be done, it has to be done, and that's how the relationship will grow. And then, of course, because it is a relationship with trust and relationship on a collaborative basis, I'm sure the mentors will join you in terms of celebrating some of even the smallest of achievements in the initial period that you have. So on a very different note, just to sort of take you through in terms of how I look at a role as a mentor. I know there are no, I don't know whether there are any other mentors here in this on this call, but for startup founders, you should know that what you expect, what you should expect. This thing is they need to listen more. Yeah. It becomes very easy for me to, without hearing a question, suddenly come to an answer because that question might be so simplistic for me. I have been asked this question 20 times. I know what the answer is, but I still need to listen to each and every question very clearly as a mentor. Be a sounding board for my mentee companies. That's my role as a mentor. That's how you need to look at it from your own mentors as well. Use them as a sounding board. As a mentor, while I'm here to share my experience, my expertise, been there, done that kind of thing, I have to, like I said, I showed you the slide earlier. There's always so much to learn from every transaction, every interaction that I have with my mentees. I need to open to learn. This is a tricky kind of situation. Do I need to be a friend? I would say, yes, I need to be friendly. I need not be a buddy, but I need to be a friend because the advisory part comes in only when there is some kind of warmth, that relationship as well. So yes, I need to be a friend as well to my mentees. This, I think I've said several times, give honest and direct kind of feedback. It's most important. I can't say, like I said, I'm not here to play a popularity game with my mentees. And even if it is an unpopular thing to say, I need to give honest and direct feedback. Having said that, I can't be judgmental. Goes back to what I said earlier. I need to listen. I need to learn. I can't be judgmental. I can't be opinionated about certain things. And again, goes back to the earlier statement I mentioned that there is a high chance that if I'm from the same domain, there could be a challenge that I'm already judgmental. I'm already opinionated about certain things from that domain. Very, very important thing, and don't blame your mentors if they start asking you uncomfortable questions, questions that make you uncomfortable, because that's their job. They are here to sort of trigger you, sort of ensure that you think on the right track, ensure you think that your things of what you have not thought through. That's their job, and that might make you uncomfortable, but please take it because that's their job. And like I said, occasionally, mentors will be required to be hands-on, but that occasionally part is very, very important. And again, getting things done rather than doing things yourself. That would be the role of a mentor. If this is the role, what would be the scope as a mentor? I would say is giving you the freedom and flexibility. We have to sort of work as the wind beneath your wings. That's why the picture is that way. We have to ensure that we can't, again, not being judgmental, not being opinionated. If you are thinking out of the box, we have to give you that freedom and flexibility to think out of the box and encourage you that. And the right word for that, like I say, is giving you wind under your wings. A very important but often underplayed, underdeveloped part of mentoring is while the mentoring as a mentor is for the founder, I have to work with you to help you build a team. Because eventually when it comes to funding, one of the first things that they're looking at is, should I put my money behind this team, not just you? Because yes, we started with that. We have very bloated expectation and bloated kind of view about ourselves. But when it comes to reality check, we know that there will be so many things that we don't know. And that's the reason why many of you might have co-founders and all of you would need some complementary skills in your team. And therefore, as a mentor, it is also a role and scope to help you build your team. If you find that for too many days, weeks, and months, you're just one person, or it's just two co-founders that is there, and there's nothing more to this startup than just two co-founders, that's not a good starting point. At the end of the day, that point A to point B means that point B is on a path to growth. That growth can be accelerated growth can be geometric growth, that growth can be linear growth, but it is growth. And therefore, as mentor, our scope also has to ensure that we whet your appetite for growth. Yeah, we try and make you more ambitious, hope to help you think big, think smart, but think big. And not just say that, I'm happy, I stay in Shivaji Nagar and happy to have my global market in Shivaji Nagar, or happy to reach, 10 lakh revenue. There's nothing wrong in a small revenue to start with, but we want to ensure that we whet your appetite. Most of the founders initially would be bootstrapped, and therefore it is important that our scope also is a mentor's role is to teach you to use money judiciously. every rupee you spend, every dollar you spend, but let's talk of rupees, every rupee you spend has to be on the right thing, at least, I mean, generically speaking, but definitely in the initial stages when you know every rupee counts because you are taking money from yourself, your own savings, your friends, your family, your parents, or whoever. And therefore, we have to ensure that we ask you the right questions in terms of what are you spending your money on. Today, it is a startup. Tomorrow, it will be a business. And day after tomorrow, hopefully, it will be a company and a conglomerate. And that's what we have to look into. And that's where the long-term planning, long-term vision, widening of your views in terms of thinking big, like I always say, has to be there. And that's another key role or part of the scope of what I look at from a mentoring perspective. Yeah, I'm sure we've all gone through this picture several times. And therefore, we also as mentors have to say that, yeah, fair enough. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you don't repeat those mistakes, as is often said. So a mentor should not castigate and scold the mentees for the mistakes that they've done. It's okay to make a mistake. If you don't make a mistake, you'll never learn, as long as you don't make the mistake several times over. So it's okay to make mistakes. This is that honest feedback kind of thing, which is that reality check on where you are today in terms of point A that I talked about upfront while answering someone's question. That our role, our scope also is to give you a reality check, not to sort of dissuade you, not to sort of pull you down, not to sort of belittle you, but clearly only in terms of ensuring that your feet are firmly grounded while your head, your heart, your brain is in the sky. Yeah, that is very, very critical. So your thought process, your emotions, your planning, everything has to be thinking big in terms of that stupendous growth that you are dreamt of for your startup, but your feet have to be firmly on the ground. This is very, very important. That discipline can be in terms of the meetings that you are having with your mentors. Discipline can be in terms of, are you jotting down notes and circulating minutes of the meeting in every meeting that you are having with your mentors. Discipline is in terms of if something was decided that, okay, we are going to meet again 2 weeks down the line, and as your mentor tells you that do this before we meet, send it to me, or let's discuss this in the next meeting. That discipline is important. You have to start the next mentor meeting with the first mentor meeting note saying that this is what we had discussed, this is what we had agreed, and yes, I have done this, or yeah, occasionally, sorry, I couldn't do this, but there is some valid kind of reason, justification, excuse, whatever you want to call it. If your mentor sees that time and again you are using this, oh, sorry, I was traveling, oh, sorry, something else came up, oh, sorry, something else came up, mentor will start losing interest. And it is very clear indication for us that you're not taking this mentoring process very, very seriously, and time to say goodbye to you, very clear. So discipline is important. And of course, at the end of the day, as mentors, we are here to help you, not tell you what your roadmap is. Be very, very clear that help you find your roadmap. And again, that's the difference between what your expectation from your mentor should be. In terms of, you're looking for answers, and it will happen. And I'll tell you from my personal experience that mentees are looking for answers and mentors keep on asking the questions. They don't give answers. But that's what mentoring is. Otherwise, we are not here to provide you solution. We are here to help you. At the end of the day, mentoring is all about helping you unlocking your own potential. It is not to tell you ki aisa karo. Because if I tell you, do this, then I'm not a mentor. Then I'm a consultant, or I'm getting into operational role. Yeah. So this is not to tell you what your roadmap should be, and that's where again I'm repeating again and again. But that's where sometimes the bias of being from the same domain comes in, and therefore it is not telling you what your roadmap, but help you finding your own. So that's the kind of role. So that's the pure quickly. I have about 5-7 minutes. So I'll talk about what TiE is and our flagship mentoring program called Nurture. Now in its 11th year, which means last 10 years, we have gone through this process. We are the world's largest non-profit fostering entrepreneurship. In India, we have about 16 chapters and 10,000 entrepreneurs as part of our network. These are the variety of activities as TiE that we do. Special activities for women entrepreneurs, for student entrepreneurs, business plan competition, nurture is what I'm going to talk about. We conduct master classes, we conduct my story sessions, so on and so forth. Like I said, it's an accelerator program. It's an equity free, it's a free program that essentially talk about globality, strategy, leadership. And yes, whether you like it or not, we also insist on ethics in your business. It's been 10 years since we started this program, and there are about 270 companies who have gone through this process. 140 of them, what we call, have graduated, which means they are now funding ready. Many of them have actually got funding from outside people. We started off this program as a TiE Pune initiative. Last couple of years, other chapters from TiE, namely Hubli, Nagpur, Surat, Coimbatore, have also joined our cohort for nurture in the last 4 or 5 years. So like I said, it's a structured program, typically goes on for 6 months. We assign 2 mentors, like I mentioned, that will be weekly guru sessions, or which are lectures, workshops on topics of interest that we believe are relevant to startups and entrepreneurs. We give them assignments and we read as part of this thing. We also conduct 2 offsite boot camps that are intensive working on strategy, business model canvas, and other topics. We will do 2 mid-course evaluations to decide on continuance of these startups in our program. We have a finishing school approach towards the graduation day. That means we will work you through on your pitch presentations for the final day. And we will have you make those pitches in front of a grand jury, and the jury will decide whether you are funding ready or not. Jury members would also include some people from the funding industry, and if you're lucky, it's not exactly like a Shark Tank thing, but if you're lucky, then they'll call you again for one more round of TechO kind of thing. So why join Nurture? And we have just 3 or 4 more days left for call of applications. We are going to close our applications this week, and ideally we want to start the cohort first week of December. So the whole idea is to get mentored by successful entrepreneurs, businessmen and businesswomen, and thought leaders. Many of them are industry scholars, and like I said, all for free. Get a theoretical foundation for your entrepreneurship. It's like a mini MBA in entrepreneurship, like we call, over a 6-month period. You obviously get huge opportunity to network with fellow startup founders. We have a large cohort of startup founders you'll be part of once you join TiE. And like all founders, I'm sure all of you are keen to be investor ready sooner than later, and then of course get a opportunity to pitch to potential angel investors. That's what it is. So we expect the mentee companies not to be a proprietary company or a partnership kind of company. Since I'm assuming many of you are in Pune, or wherever, we expect you to be part of TiE Pune, be a member, associate member of TiE Pune, or if you're from outside, then the closest chapter that you have for TiE. We expect you to attend all these boot camps and guru sessions, offline and online, depending on your location. Participate in all workshops, attendance, the commitment to being serious and attending all these kind of sessions, and submit kind of your assignments on time in prescribed formats. That's the kind of expectation that we have. This is the link that is there for you to apply. Easier thing, I know you can't copy this link, but easier thing is to go to TiE Pune website, go to our events and programs, and there is Nurture. Or you can share the link. I think they already has that link, but I can share with him again, and he can circulate that to you. Great. Any more questions? I'll be more than happy to answer these.
I have one question, Gayatri, here again.
Yes, please.
Awesome. I mean, what you said is a real eye-opener. Thank you so much for that. So one of the questions I had, sir, was, I know these days fundraising has been a buzz and everybody is eyeing to go towards that. But what if, as an organization, we want to take a conscious decision to be bootstrapped, and our profits to, my own dream that maybe our profits will fund ourselves, and we don't want to go the fundraising route. What if? Does the Nurture program support such startups as well, or is it required to be willing for fundraising?
Okay. Let me give you an honest opinion here, Gayatri, and I'm glad you asked this question.
Mhm.
Like I mentioned to you, our nurture program is 10-year-old. This is the 11th year we are doing, and I'm chairing nurture this year.
I see.
And it is for the first time in 10 years where we are being upfront that the whole thing is that we'll make you funding ready.
Okay.
Yeah. Last 10 years, we've never used this terminology at all.
Okay.
Because I agree with you that there are enough and more startups that we've seen and we've experienced and we work with who say that no, we don't need funding right now.
Right.
But being funding ready means 20 things. You still want to go through those 20 things without asking for funds.
I see. I see.
So to answer your question directly, we will be more than happy if somebody says we really are more interested in making money and generating profits and recouping those profits to grow.
Right.
The only thing I have to say is that sometimes because we are apprehensive about raising funds, and raising funds means parting with some equity, and there's never a right time to do that and never a wrong time to do that, like they say. And therefore,
Right.
if you're apprehensive that how much equity should I give, and am I selling too cheap, and those kind of things, but this apprehension should not come in the way of your growth.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't want to partake with my equity because I'm not sure this is the right time. I'm not sure this is the right valuation. Am I selling too cheap? Is it too early, etc., etc.? And therefore, excellent thought that I'd rather start generating cash flows internally and put those cash flows back into my business. Excellent thought. As long as it is not, this lack of fund is not starving your growth.
Understood. Understood.
So you just have to be, ensure and wary of that you're not starving your growth because of lack of funds.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is one more question in the chat box. Ishan, want to ask like monetary gain and equity stake regarding the how to get that maintained from the.
Is monetary gain and equity? Ishan, are you there? Can you?
Ishan, can you explore the question in detail? Like. You can unmute and speak.
Am I audible?
Yeah, Ishan, tell me.
Sir, these mentorship programs are like on a basis of monetary gains or equity stakes we have to dilute to.
I will allow Uday to answer this because it's part of AIC.
Yeah, it's not on the equity, not on the equity, because incubator, the pay particular thing with the mentor that startup don't have to pay to that thing. Okay, if you are incubated at any particular incubation center, so any startup don't have to pay anything for the mentorship through that particular incubation.
Currently, my incubation center is JP University, Vaknagat.
Okay.
And next my project is forwarded to National Innovation Repository. So there is one question in that specific which is about IIT Mandi Incubation Center. There are two type of mentors. One are paid and one is non-paid. So I need a clarity on that question.
Actually, as an incubation center, the incubation center has to be sector specific. If apart from that particular sector, they can connect you to the mentor outside the organization, that they individually a startup have to discuss whatever the monetary terms. But if you are a particular sector specific to that particular incubation center, then that will be definitely give a free of charge. But IIT Mandi, you mentioned that that policy that you have to check with that particular incubation center.
They have put this question very specifically. There are two type of mentorship. One is paid and one is non-paid.
Yeah, they might don't have that much capacity to give mentorship. Then they might have done that thing. Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, please.
my startup is about my startup name is Listener SD Technology. Basically, we are in a business of opportunity identification and execution through our soft data processing technology. So currently what we have done, we are providing specialized services to new startups or new ideas or new concepts, where we are deploying the knowledge transfer free of cost, but I'm charging the fees for my status. So currently we have 2 new startups onboarded. One is like Mind Makeup Content Writing and Media Private Limited, and the second one is Futuristic Sci-Fi Technology. And we have a multiple startups in our portfolio or lineup portfolio. So how we can go forward as a startup who is providing specialized services to new entities. So what additional points you can add so we can go in a right direction?
So you want to make a policy for onboarding your startups for your services, right?
Yes.
You have to maintain some particular policy for that. You have to be connected with a good mentor who can support in this particular service industry, who has already specialized around 30-40 years of experience. They will get better guide you in these terms, because the service do you have that might be totally understood in depthly, right? So I suggest that you have to connect with the particular mentor who can find it out in your incubation center as well as outside the industry by LinkedIn and all. But this is because you have particular services you want to provide to the startups, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right. To make a policy for that particular process and all the startup onboarding on your company, that you need to discuss with the particular mentor. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for your guidance.
Yeah. Anything else? Anyone have any questions? Please ask.
I have anyway put the link for the nurture program on the chat.
Okay.
In case any of you is interested, we're closing the applications this week. So if you're interested, you need to sort of do that quickly.
I think one of our startup security has sent a message that they have also been part of the nurture program, and their first session they're trying to one of startup has connected with the TiE Pune.
Yeah. We have one session with Advait sir also, and it is a fantastic.
Thank you, Sonali.
Right. Thank you so much for the information to our participants.
Okay.
So I would like to conclude this session. I think no one is asking. If anyone have, please ask. Then either we will have to conclude the session. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time and guidance for how do mentor need to be support their particular startup journey. Yeah, that is more important. The mentor is that every startup have the mentor, but the utilization of their particular mentor, their knowledge and their path in that particular technical or maybe guidance management level or anything. So that is more important to execute the mentorship in their own startup journey as well as entrepreneurial journey. So this is very the knowledgeable as well as experience. Your experience has been very fruitful to all the participants. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Uday, and thanks, TiE Pune, for having me over.
Yeah, I would like to add one thing, that we are organizing one more session on 18th. That is on patentability search on software invention. How to patent on software inventions. That details I am sharing on the screen, that you all guys can participate, like register and participate. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you. And I put my WhatsApp number and my email ID on the chat.
If anyone have any queries regarding this and further want to connect with Upohan Technology as well as the Mr. Advait Kurlekar sir, they can connect through their mail as well as WhatsApp.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Uday. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, sir.